grab your batleth and let's go to Stovacor. It's Voyager, please. A hateful voyage to the Delta Quadrant. My name is Joseph.
And I am the Klingon version of Neo from the Matrix, aka Jesus Christ. Peter.
How apt, considering a recent trailer.
I don't know. Dope-ass recent trailer.
And listen, this is going to be on the internet forever. Don't be saying things about movies that aren't out yet. We ate our words so hard when it came to Picard.
I didn't say it's going to be
a great movie. We ate our whole dick when it came to Picard.
I'm not saying it's going to be a great movie, but I'm telling you that what fucking trailer was tight.
Before we get into the episode this week, I would like to provide special attention to our Voyager Please loyal listeners who joined us in Discord to do our very first Voyager, or very first Star Trek movie night. Myself, Eastern European Meme Lord Darius, Australia Mike.
What an international crowd you're keeping.
Bro, like, we set that time to be perfect for U.S. participants, and it wound up just being a cavalcade of foreigners that, like, woke up at 2:30 in the morning or whatever to, like, do this. Like,
that's
God bless.
Emotion, man. Wow.
Yeah. I mean, if I could give Darius a raise, I would. But I'm not his boss, so I can't. Maybe I should call him. Maybe I should be like, I'll call your boss. Be like, this is Joe from America.
This is Joe from podcast. I am very important, I assure you.
We had a good turnout. It was a half dozen of us, and we watched Star Trek Generations. Darius did his best You impression, and we were able to give the live experience, I think, as we watched the movie. I still stand that movie. My opinions is unchanged after a recent rewatch. I
left that movie so fucking stank and pissed off. Like, the personal offense I felt at Rick Berman destroying the D.
There are low points, and the destruction of the D, while I totally understand from a production standpoint why they felt the need to do that, also painful.
Yeah.
It was, I think, the best Star Trek, Next Generation style story in a movie. Like, it feels most like an episode out of all of the movies, and there are some things that are really great, like Malcolm McDowell, good villain. I'm definitely always going to be on the side of
the Duras sisters.
The fact that they used a C-tier villain like that so effectively.
I believe those are double D tier villains.
It's true. Susie Plankston and her double Ds were definitely on full display for everyone. I liked the way that they dropped the lighting way down low and, like, filled out all of the sets with more extras as a workaround for the fact that all of the TV sets look like ass on film. It actually works out. Like, it looks better. And it has that crisp cinematic sound to it. I think there's a lot to love about Generations.
Yeah, and again, I mean, once I saw what the E looked like, I was a lot more forgiving for what they did to the D. And, sure, it's not like Picard could just take the fucking D back to Utopia Planitia and, like, use it as trade-in credit towards a sovereign class. You had to blow it up, but, like,
it's got some dents on it.
Have the Borg, that one stray torpedo. And it's funny we're talking about that part of Generations where you've got some buster ass ghetto sled Klingon yesteryear warbird taking on the Federation's best. And that's what you're going to get here at the beginning of season 7, episode 14, Prophecy.
I love this episode, and rewatching it, my opinion remains firm. I think it is excellent. It provides an opportunity to do things in Voyager you would not otherwise have the opportunity to do. It has the best B-plot of all time. I laughed out loud watching this thing.
Yes. However, here's a problem, Joe.
What is that?
I'm racist.
Okay. I understand.
Against Klingons. And okay. I have found that I'm even more racist against religious Klingons.
Okay. I see where you're going here.
So this episode has a lot going against it, but despite those two prejudices that I carry, by the end, I came out pretty happy with it. Like, a good story here happens here despite Klingons. And
I am glad the story could overcome your racism. Yours. Your Peter, who is a racist, admitted on the internet.
Yes.
Yet somehow they reached you. It's a heartwarming tale.
Yeah. You want to start off with some space math?
Okay. All right.
This isn't going to be, Federation Penal Code Klingon statistics for, Klingons unfairly detained. No. So episode starts right off the jump. Voyager tooting along and starts getting hammered. I went back, I rewatched a scene several times. There will be a total of 6 shots fired at Voyager. Okay.
Correct. 6 disruptor bolts specifically.
From an initially unknown foe. And shields are up on Voyager from the beginning. 2 of these shots are taken. We only see like the bridge shake, so we don't know where those land. But I would say of the 6 shots, we can say with certainty that 4 of them hits the port end of Voyager.
Correct.
Okay. Now, this is the same U.S. Voyager that just hammered the shit out of like half the Hirogen fleet.
Correct.
No fucks given.
Mm-hmm.
And we have been led to believe is a badass. You will also recall this is the same USS Voyager that got shot by species 8472, and it did nothing.
Correct.
We will find out, again, here's our Generations tie-in, that the attacker here is a D7 Klingon cruiser.
Yes.
This is an antiquated 80-plus-year-old vessel. Looking at the memory alpha, it looks like this thing went into service, 2257.
Yeah.
And at the time of this, we are in the star date year 2377. So 4 shots landed on Voyager from this antique, and it brings it down to fucking 50% shields.
Okay. Allow me to defend this. How many times has Voyager been able to upgrade its technology while traveling through the Delta Quadrant?
Don't even give me this fucking shit.
1,000,000 times, right?
Listen, at the best, they've gotten a couple photon torpedo restocks. Beyond that, the amount of technology they've picked up has been very negligible.
They have an entire astrometrics lab built with Borg tech. It's
not a weapon. That's a fucking library.
They've talked about shield and phaser enhancements using Borg tech.
If you told me that this Klingon D7 cruiser has upgrades similar to like bicycle repair stations around the exercise track where the Klingons ride their bikes, or like they've replaced the water in the drinking fountains with Mountain Dew, I'll buy that as like legitimate Delta Quadrant upgrades that these guys have gotten. I'd even go so far as to say if they had some sort of like Omega threat level psionic Vietnam holodeck torture device.
Like holodeck, but for real hardcore motherfuckers.
No, the fucking immemorandum or whatever that was.
Oh, yeah.
The Vietnam atrocity forced mind rape machine. I'll buy that. But better phasers, that's off the table. That's not happening.
So they kind of run into the Hirogen, did a little hunting together.
I actually thought that the idea of like some OG Klingons versus Hirogen would be pretty sexy.
So yeah, maybe that's your headcanon. Like this D7 is souped up with Hirogen weapons.
Bullshit. Here's the truth: the writers suck, and there's
all right.
Again, I listened to our BSG recap and like how on it the production staff, Ron Moore, was on, just tracking every excruciating detail. This is a unpleasant reminder that these dudes do not care, and Voyager is as strong or as weak as any situation would require. But anyways, you got this old crusty ass D7 cruiser that's still alive and kicking out in the Delta Quadrant. If that is not right there, the proof in the pudding you need that a cloaking device is a must-have for any Alpha Quadrant ship in the Delta Quadrant, there it is, prophecy.
So they get into this run and gun, and Tuvok immediately brings up, as you would expect in this circumstance, we're getting shot at by Klingons. We are very far from the nearest Klingon. This is weird. Aw.
Come here.
Hi. Oh, hey.
You want to say hi?
Hi.
Hi.
Right. Say bye-bye.
Goodbye.
Goodbye. So precious. This is staying in.
I would have kept her around a little longer, but her knowledge of the Klingon armada is a little weak, and we don't need nubs in here right now.
You know,
This is
we got a
serious
good
business.
flow between the two of us. You know, we don't need a third. We don't need a third chair on this show. But she is adorable.
Oh, thank you. I made her myself. So as you said, Tuvok's pointing out, like, hey, this looks familiar.
Eventually, they piece together, oh, it's an old D7. We have technology to just spot it through its cloak now. Fuck this thing.
Delicious. The metagaming that goes on here, they're just like, yeah, put in the Konami code real quick. There you are. Boop.
And knock it right out of its cloak, and they're like, okay, I guess now we have to talk to you. And they're like, they're all straight up like, die Federation scum. Like, you are enemies of the Klingons. And they're like, this is just awkward, man. Like, what are you doing? First of all, what are you doing here? Second of all, why are you shooting at us? We're supposed to be boys. What is this?
Lots going on to unpack here, starting with the fact these Klingons, these are some TNG Klingons.
Oh,
right?
yeah. Well, I mean, technically they're TOS Klingons. They're just made up like TNG Klingons. They're from the TOS era.
That's what I'm saying, though. Like, the conundrum of what's a Klingon is really going wild here, because you're not getting...
This is before they fixed the Puerto Ricans and Gold Lame thing in Enterprise. Like, they actually canonized this question and solved it in Enterprise in a way that was actually very cool. But yeah, so these are lobster on their head Klingons, and they're in their heavy metal samurai outfits.
I like that. That's a very appropriate.
Yeah, it's got that Eastern look, yet also looks like they shred. You know, They do sweet riffs.
You got the TNG Klingons. You've got the old D7. Some quick background on these guys we will find out is that they are essentially pilgrims who decided that the Klingon Empire had become flimsy and they weren't down with that shit anymore, and they were going to go off on a religious journey. So this is a generational ship, which is super sweet. But the beef these guys have with the Federation is not up close and personal. This is speaking of prejudice. This is learned, right? This is hand-me-downs.
Yeah, we hate the Federation because the Federation's the enemy.
We've always been told to hate them, and we'll get into it.
Always been at war with East Asia,
but the up close and personal hate, and they don't touch on it at all. And I think it would have been a really cool C plot. Tuvok, right? Tuvok grew up with this shit. Tuvok served on the Enterprise. I'm sorry, on the Excelsior.
Correct.
And I don't think was he a lieutenant on the Excelsior?
He was an ensign. It was his first assignment.
Oh, that was his first assignment. So they were right on top the end of the aggression there. But like Tuvok growing up, going through the academy, that other stuff, like I don't think it's unreasonable to believe that he saw some real shit and might have some legit beef with old school Klingons. So a blast from the past like this, I feel, and again, they don't go into it, but I think Tim Russ does a good job in this episode showing a real lack of patience with these fools.
The one thing I wanted to bring up of a larger Trek question is, while Star Trek 6 is my favorite Trek entry as far as like the movies go, and really for most of Trek, and the concept that the Federation makes peace with the Klingons is a powerful one, I do find it strange that turned into the Klingons and the Federation were best buds and military allies rather than simply two powers at peace. But the fact that it turned over time is still like a very close relationship never made any sense. They're so different. The Klingons and the Federation have almost nothing in common, and frankly, most of the Klingon culture and way of life, which is an anathema to Federation ideals.
Yeah, but
It's
as
never
a
makes sense.
counterpoint, fuck the Romulans.
I mean, yeah, I get where they make peace because they have every reason to, right? Like, they're not, the Federation is not interested in wiping the Klingons out. The Klingons can't wipe the Federation out. The Federation is willing to show their ideals by helping the Klingons, and the Klingons in return say, okay, we'll take one step in your direction, and we will institute an era of peace between our people, right? And that completely makes sense. And when you have got the Romulans nearby, and you're like, well, we're better off keeping an eye on these guys anyway, and like trading some information between us as necessary on that, that also makes sense. But like, it becomes this bosom buddies routine of like, me and my Klingon homies, we're gonna fight together. Like, no, you should find that detestable.
I will agree to you that feels like sloppy ramrodding to create this close camaraderie. I think TNG maybe would have been the right place to tell a couple stories about how did this gap get closed, and I think the way to do it would just be the Klingons hating everyone else so much more but still seeking that outside contact, because I can't see the Klingons rolling with fucking Cardassians, right?
Yeah, no, like, I did get the idea of them being at peace with the Federation because they're the one power that they feel like they can actually deal with. You know, like, we can
Yeah,
talk,
but I
at
mean,
least.
I also think you can look at the Federation's history is very bloody, and not going into Discovery or whatever, but even again through the Cardassian Wars, as we see with what the hell is his name, Captain Maxwell,
Correct.
And what little I saw through Miles O'Brien, and I'm sure they go into a lot harder in Deep Space Nine, but like for all the Federation's ideals and stuff, they still get in some very ugly wars, and they still come out well. So I think if the Klingons were to say, like, listen, you guys can say you're all peace-loving hippies or whatever, you still throw down hard, and we're more alike than you think, and like just kind of, I see you for what you are, and you can say you whatever you want to be, but like at the end of the day, we're not so different, you and I, and bridge the gap that way.
Yeah, leave them a little uncomfortable with how correct they are.
Mm-hmm.
Like, we do throw down a lot.
Like, we also know that you like to put your penises in lots of things, and we like to do this as well, as we will see here with Commander Kacha, or whatever her name is.
We are the best.
We are two species. We are two empires, often at war, but at the end of the day, we both do like the fuck. So we will build an alliance, a bosom buddy alliance on a whole as a whole. Yes. Cardassians do not like the sex, nor do the Romulans. So yeah, we got these TNG Klingons. Hey, knock it off. Cool. Hey, we're at peace. Kittimer Accords. It could be a trap, whatever. Hey, listen, if it makes you feel any better, we actually have a Klingon on board. If you want to come see it, yes, we'll see this Klingon. Sure, come on our ship. Reasonable, Captain. Also, we don't trust you, so we're going to put our best man on the job, none other than Smoldering Catcher, Lieutenant Ayala, who does not seem to have any time in his day for any bullshit. His smoldering is set to 12. I'm guessing that prior to joining the Maquis, he also ran afoul of some Klingons, and much like Tuvok,
he's giving him the death stare, man. Like, he is not happy to have this assignment. Also, once again, perfect record. When security gets jabronied in this episode, he is nowhere to be seen.
Maybe Ayala's dirty. Maybe he's a corrupt cop. Maybe he's selling info to the bad guys, and he knows when like the violence is going to go down, and he just ducks his shifts because he doesn't ever want to be there when the shooting actually starts.
So the captain here, the Klingon captain here, is Kolar. And Kolar comes into the briefing room, and he says, "This is B'Elanna." And sees B'Elanna is now pregnant. They've got Roxanne Dawson in the fake pregnancy belly for the rest of the season, starting now.
Wow, that sucks. She had to go through 2 seasons pregnant.
That's true. Yeah, like, in the first time around, they wouldn't even give her the courtesy of writing it in, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like they made her have to hide it by wearing the coat and
like,
shooting her from the
move.
boobs down, you know?
You're gonna be full of baby and uncomfortable legitimately, and then for your last season on the show, we're gonna make you wear the fat suit and be uncomfortable.
Big.
Who'd she piss off?
He comes in and is like, "Hey, did you fuck in this month?" Is there for his first question, and she's like, yes. Not. I don't know why I just told you that because it's none of your business, but yes, that is when we fuck." And he's like, "I have to go back to my ship now." "Yes, of course, we're at peace. I won't shoot you. Everything is fine. This is in no way suspicious. I just asked a random strange Klingon I've never met if she fucked on a specific month. She said yes, and now I must go. Do not ask me any further questions." And Janeway's like, "Seems good. Get out of here."
I was like, yeah, scram.
So Kolar goes back to the ship, and that's when you start to get the religious dialogue that these guys are on like some kind of holy quest, and Kolar is convinced that they have arrived at a thing that he calls the time of separation.
Oh, yeah.
And that means blowing up their own fucking ship, like his name is Catherine Janeway.
Wow. So here's a weak point for this episode, and it's, again, the writer's not giving a fuck about what precedent says. Oh, Captain, I must congratulate you. You've done far more damage than we had realized. Our warp core is going to go critical. We're fucked. We've got like 5 seconds before our ship blows up. And Janeway goes, all right, fine. Transport everybody on this ship to Voyager now. 200 people. They successfully transport 200 people off the beat up, blowing up D7 into their cargo bay. This is impossible in Star Trek. This actually gets called out, I think, in Lower Decks when they pull some. And Lower Decks is like in the future from now.
Right.
And they're like, wow, you just transported everybody off the ship at once? Yeah, you can't do that in real life, but hey, this is just a holodeck program, and I thought it'd be cool, so there. Well, apparently you can. And this is quite the gamble for this Klingon and their antiquated technology and understanding of Federation tech, because later in the episode, when Kim's getting played, when Kim's getting conned before
Right.
he gets thrown into the wall like a bitch, the Klingon's like, wow, man, this is how your transporter works. He's like, yeah. And he's like, that's really cool. I never would have thought you could transport 200 people at once. And it's like, what?
Well, I mean, at least they call out like, well, it is a little risky. We don't like to do that for safety reasons.
Yeah, but like the Klingon guy's like, I would have never in a million years thought that you could transport 200 people in under 5 seconds. Like when the captain gave us this plan, we figured only like 6 of us were gonna survive.
Let's be clear, by the way. This is an episode where Harry Kim is everyone's bitch. He has a bad week with these fucking Klingons on board.
By his own design. Harry Kim has a bad week with these Klingons board because he is a punk bitch and does not know a good thing when he sees it. Unlike a certain space rat who is very D2F.
So let's get to the B plot. Because now all these Klingons are on board. Tuvok is like, there's 250 of these motherfuckers. The fuck are we gonna do? And they have a quick meeting to say, well, nothing we can do except put them in quarters. Everyone's on security duty. Keep them out of sensitive areas, and we'll figure something out, right? Like, it is what it is. Start having people double bunk and all this other stuff.
Would we say the current crew complement of Voyager was at
like
this
140? Point? So like these Klingons almost double them. There's like
that's
more
crazy, and these aren't just Klingon warriors. Like again, generational ship, kids and
women,
kids and women, and everybody serves, right? I think we did the math back in the 87s, like what it would take to keep a community moving without like massive inbreeding and real problems. And wasn't it like a much higher number than even the 37s had?
Yeah, you'd have to be deep in the 5 figures, I think, to avoid the kind of genetic recombinations.
Okay, so switching over to the A plot for a second, we're going to find out that these dudes are sick with what the Nagah?
Yeah, basically inbreeding disease.
Yeah, it's gotta
Yeah,
be.
yeah.
And not only is it like, hey, you gotta fuck your sister to make the Nagak present, like you could just the Naret. You can just breathe in Klingon physiology. You can breathe on people and give them the inbred trait. That's what B'Elanna Torres is gonna find out. She gets inbred just by being looked at by other Klingon hillbillies.
I mean, it really is like, spoiler, the way this episode gets sorted out is they insert new genes into their gene pool. Like, here's some human DNA to thin this all out a little bit, guys. Jesus.
These are Klingon Amish.
Like, maybe more like Klingon West Virginia. Take me home. Take me home, country roads. To the Kronos I belong.
So this is crazy, man. You got Voyager rocking 150 people. You just brought 200 people in. Going back to the early seasons of Voyager, which I know we don't like to do, but like once upon a time, food used to be an issue. And Neelix says in one shift, he served more than 300 dishes out. So I don't know if there's any pretending that Voyager's not rolling in dough and living the high life.
Yeah, we've left replicator rations behind.
Yeah, if this was BSG, this would be a big problem.
And so we get our first taste of the world's best B plot in the mess hall when Neelix, who is very enthusiastic about Klingon culture, the Klingons are Neelix's people. They are slovenly. They enjoy weird food. And they are very gregarious, right? That lines up very nicely with where Neelix lives. They're violent, which Neelix is typically not, but everything else, like, they're his people. They're ugly, got a lot of gnarly shit on their heads.
Neelix is already well read on Klingon heritage because he's tried to rope B'Elanna into it several times and she just wasn't having it.
Yeah.
So I see this as like a fun day for me. He's like, I actually like this stuff, and like now there's people who love this stuff. I'm excited about it. But was it Worst World where he gets lumped in with the Klingon programs versus the Hirogen?
Yes.
Did he flourish in those? I can't remember.
Maybe he goes to the Klingons and recruits them. Yeah, because that's okay. I remember. Because he's the baker in the French village.
Yes.
And he gets laid out along with Seven, and they decide to put him in the Klingon thing, and so he's like a Klingon warrior in that. And then he gets like zapped, so he's now back to being Neelix, and yeah, he has to inspire the Klingon warriors to go fight the Nazis or whatever. And he succeeds. He actually pulls it off.
Yeah, that was a cool scene because like they got the holodecks all throughout the ship, and the Nazis are winning a little bit, and then a bunch of fucking Klingons show up with batleths and get wild. So this is really on brand for Neelix to be as pro. Unlike myself, there isn't a racist bone in his body towards the Klingons.
Not a one.
There's another bone in his body that's very kind towards the Klingons.
Oh, very. I mean,
it's his dick.
Okay, so let's address the elephant in the room. The Talaxian in the room, if you will. The Talaxian erection in the room. Neelix fucks. Right?
Not just 1-year-olds.
Like, Neelix absolutely fucks. And when we say that Neelix fucks, there is the entire coda of this episode is awash in the post-fuck stank of Neelix. Just couldn't contain myself as these scenes played out. God bless the writers for deciding to just go that hard in the paint on this, right? Like, you know what? We haven't used Neelix is basically a guest star. We're going to put him in this episode. He's feeling it. He loves the Klingon stuff. It's time for the people to know that Neelix fucks. Bold choice.
They get an argument over food. Harry Kim jumps in. Hey guys, knock it out. And first Neelix tries to get in there and use like reasoning and Klingon logic, and they swat him to the floor. And then Harry grows a pair for like 0.5 seconds and tries to lead her ship in there and break up the fight. And one of the arguing parties is a pretty hot Klingon chick, and she's like, "Ooh, I
Yeah.
like you. You're alpha. We gonna
St-
do it."
Standard issue in platform boots towering over adult male
Boob
Klingon woman
windows.
with a boob window
Hmm.
and the teeth of like, this is a woman that
Some
is
80s
going,
mall hair.
yeah, this is a Klingon woman that is going to break you,
Hmm.
but you will enjoy it.
She
Like,
wants that new genetic material. She's tired of swimming in the shallow end of the gene pool.
yeah.
But turns out this round, Harry's a bitch. Harry's afraid of the girls. He doesn't want anything to do with it. He's trying to run away. She bites him, and instead of, putting it in, he runs off to the EMH. And he's like, "Oh, she bit me." And the doctor's like, "Yeah, well, buck up. You're either going to have to kill her or put it in. So you better put it in. By the way, here's a flashback to that time you got an STD from a 90s hottie. Here's your permission slip to engage in sexual relations."
You know, this rule exists because of you.
Yeah, this
Like,
ridiculous fucking concept that flies in the face of Riker William T.
Will Riker fucked an alien before first contact. He put his genetic material into that species before they even knew they were space people.
Listen, it's that flagship privilege. We've talked about it before, and the ends justified the means, and that was that. But he's like, "Hey, here's your permission slip for me. Go get Janeway to sign off on it. Get out of the sick bay." Following the B plot to the end because, like you said, it's the best. Uh, later on, he's hiding in a fucking Jeffries tube.
And Neelix comes by and is like, "Oh, oh yeah, I've seen that woman. You're so lucky you're gonna get to fuck her." Like, he's like reinforcing of like, "Yeah, you're gonna have to fuck her, but it's gonna be awesome. Have you seen her? What a specimen." He is absolutely just like horny for the same lady, but he's like, "No, yeah, you're the one that's gonna fuck her," and he doesn't want to do it. And here she is walking down, right? She's got like the fucking the Matrix coat style Klingon outfit going,
Mm-hmm.
and with the big boots and all that. And Neelix like sees his opportunity to fuck. He's like, "Wait a second, I know exactly what to do. This is where all of my reading of all of this Klingon stuff is finally going to pay off massively." And like pins Harry up against the wall and starts admonishing him and dominating him about how he took too much food, and then makes him run away. And immediately, the Klingon woman sees this and is pleased that the space rat has, asserted his dominance. And in possibly the best comedic beat this show has managed in 7 years, they zoom in on Ethan Phillips, right? They give him the whole screen, and he's like, he's doing like a fucking Austin Powers thing. He's like, "Yeah, I'm gonna give you all the signals that it's fuck time." Like 100%. Just perfect. Perfect.
Jump over to the A plot. You've got 200 Klingons on this ship that was before just 150 Federation. We're going to put all these people. Oh, we're going to volunteer for people to double bunk and give up their quarters and this and that. And somehow the Federation and all the Maquis space terrorists find it within their heart to get these dirty ass Klingons their beds. And we get a great comedy scene where Neelix shows up on Tuvok's door, walks in. There's no, again, this is the security chief, right?
Right.
With 200 plus strangers on the ship, door unlocked. Neelix cruises in there, throws his duffel bag on the table, sits on the couch, and goes, "We're roommates now. We're going to have a great time. So much fun." You know the scene I wanted here, right? Like,
Oh
hey,
yeah.
this isn't the first time we've been living together, buddy.
they,
Chill the fuck out.
He comes in to Club Tuvok, and Tuvok's not in a full Shang Shun. He actually has like a very comfortable looking like night outfit on, very tidy. Looking at a report.
If you like your night outfits with 2 boxes of starch, yes, very comfortable.
He comes in and invites himself in, sits down. He has a duffel bag, and Tim Russ does a great job in this scene too, right? Because he's Tuvok, so he can't do too much, but everything he can do, he does. Because he has this like bewilderment of like, why did you just do this? And then he explains, so I had to give my quarters up to a Klingon family, and you're the last one without a roommate, so we're roommates now.
You did this
And
to yourself, Tuvok. You little stingy ass bitch.
and Tuvok's like, well, I prefer to, be alone. I need my solitude. And then Neelix turns the new Jack up just a touch and goes, oh, you don't want me to go back to my quarters and kick out that Klingon family, do you? And just waits the beat, of Tuvok just like starting to look very exasperated of like, I just got conned. I just got, and I know I got, and this sucks. And he goes, oh, good, you don't want me to do that. I'll start teaching you Klingon drinking songs. And he's like ruffling through his bag. He's throwing shit around while singing in Klingon. And then they just push the camera back up into Tim Russ's face. And his eyes just get wide. And you can see in his head, like, do I have time to turn on the choke Daddy Neelix simulation before bed so that I could get this murderous rage out of my back of my brain before it's too late? Like, if I am the security chief, if I beam you into space, will anyone know? Like, you see it in the back of his eyes, and you're like,
I need the fan based supercut of this scene where it's the camera focusing on Tuvok and the little twitch in his eye, and then they start splicing in alternating scenes of the Event Horizon stock footage that we already know is there,
right,
where people it's hell,
right,
and then the scenes of him on the holodeck strangling Neelix and just that would be the best. So if anybody out there has like 6 hours on their hands and is good with Adobe products, I would love to see that. This is also where Neelix drops the line, hey, I serve 300 dishes. These dudes are super hungry. They just like ate all the food. There's a side scene about this time where Torres, who has preemptively been assigned a personal security detail, which talk about the least confidence inspiring thing possible on the Starship Voyager.
Oh, we kind of glossed this over, but the plot is these Klingons think that B'Elanna's baby is their messiah. We really
Just
didn't actually minor detail, right? Like the whole
not
plot
anywhere near as important as Neelix is about to fuck a Klingon lady.
Oh yeah, like definitely not the most important thing that happens in this episode, granted, but the actual plot is they think that her baby is the messiah. They have these scrolls that kind of have these vague suggestions that they were gonna meet Klingon under these circumstances, and it's that sort of standard you can interpret this stuff the way that you want kind of thing about religion.
And that's what I really liked about this episode. Jumping to the end is unlike the actual Ronald Moore Stovacor episode where he tells you that for sure Stovacor is a real thing and B'Elanna Torres has definitely been to it, or whatever the anti-Stovacor is. Yeah, the entire premise of belief that her child is Klingon Jesus or whatever, it's close enough that it kind of fits, but it's also loose enough that the doubt that gets cast on it feels very legit, and it's iffy, and I like that.
It's definitely left a little unsettled. I am on the side of Tom where he says, listen, the galactic coincidence that we met these fucking Klingons in the middle of the Delta Quadrant to begin with seems sus in terms of it not being part of some larger plan. I am on the side of that baby B'Elanna. B'Elanna's baby is their messiah, but it wasn't the messiah they necessarily interpreted it as. It was the cure for their inbredness.
Yeah.
But anyway, we'll get to that. But
messiah you deserve, not the one you wanted.
Captain Kolar, though, and I think this is the important part of this plot, is he goes right to the captain and to B'Elanna and is like, yeah, I don't know if B'Elanna's baby is our messiah, but I do know that this ship has been wandering the fucking Delta Quadrant for a century, and it's time for that to be over.
By this ship, I mean the one I fucking blew up.
Yeah, I need to do something to get us to stop fucking meandering around the galaxy and to settle down somewhere and create a colony. And you're close enough, so we're doing this. And I really need you to help me do this, because that's how we get out of your ship, which I know you really want. So the captain is very reasonable and very much on team. I am not trying to be the bad guy, right? Like, I get this is fucked up and it's very weird for all of us, but I want what you want, which is we get on a planet and leave you alone.
Yep. But she becomes something of a celebrity, and there's a neat scene in there where she's going to leave engineering at the end of her shift, goes out in the hallway and gets swarmed, and then she's supposed to be meeting Tom for dinner, and she site-to-site transports into her own quarters.
There's some officer privilege for you.
Which I'm like, oh, nice. Because that's what I was like, man, if she's trapped there, why isn't she just, oh, cool, she is transporting? And then I'm like, man, she's pregnant. Like, that baby's soul is gone now.
Oh, womp womp. It's going to happen eventually, right?
I mean, we've already kind of established, well, not that you guys were there to hear it, but Joe and I established that, she's already kind of a bitch, what with trying to genetic resequence the Klingon out of her baby and all. But
this kid's had a rough run, and she's not even born yet.
She does not. Her soul is gone now as well. Sorry, baby. That's how the transporters work. They kill you. You're a clone. Your clone, baby Jesus. Deal with it.
Kolar eventually convinces B'Elanna to help him sell the rest of the Klingons on what's going on. And they have a bad initial meeting where they're like, you're barely Klingon. It's, going to be like a 1/4 Klingon baby. How could this possibly be the case? So B'Elanna's got to basically sell that her kid matches all of the Messiah things. And it starts with a scene between the two of them in B'Elanna and Tom's quarters, actually, where they're talking through like how they're going to structure this. And very Kolar, again, being the most reasonable Klingon that I think we've ever seen on Star Trek, period.
Yes.
Starts to go like, you don't really honor your heritage at all, but he's not super like in her face about it. He's like, well, let's.
Great line there where he's like, you don't have any pictures of Kalis? Where's your family crest? And she's like, yeah, it clashed with the carpet. Like the fucking look on his face.
But he lets it go.
Yeah.
And it's a great, like, instead he does a little thing, right, that she knows of, like, praying for your ancestors and asks just to, her, like, is there an ancestor I can pray for on your behalf? A little prayer rug out, does the thing, and it connects with her, like, it gives her that chance to be like, open herself up to this. Because we've had a lot of episodes about her difficulties with Klingon culture, like you mentioned, in regards to the stuff with Neelix. Like, we've established that in her background. This is not some shit she enjoys.
Credit where credit is due. We have had 5, if not 6 episodes of B'Elanna hates her culture, and it's always the same story, beginning with her really hating it and by the end kind of making peace or whatever. This is the first time we've actually seen the needle moved forward where she doesn't want anything to do with this. And this guy, again, what you're saying here is this non-pushy method he goes about persuading her, and the fact it clicks. He doesn't have a gun to her head. He just starts throwing some stuff out there, and the way he's able to hook her in through her grandmother, right? The matron line there, and it wakes up these parts of her where she's like, wait a minute, I care about grandma. I did used to pray for grandma's soul. There's a familiarity to this that I don't hate. And that's how he gets the buy-in her. I thought worked so well and was such a deserved next chapter of her Klingon story that it's taken us 6 fucking episodes to finally get to. Was beautiful.
They transitioned that into a big kind of like dining hall scene where they've like got it all done up like it's a Klingon dining hall, and she's
not on the holodeck where they could have just had a Klingon dining hall, by the way. Nope, it's the mess hall.
Listen, don't deny Neelix his opportunities to do a little bit of LARPing and a little bit of
could have been the Polynesian colony, could have flashed his feet.
And B'Elanna is going through telling the stories of her honorable exploits as they recount past battles, which in the prior scene, Kolar pointed out, like, you actually do match some of this stuff. Like, you have had victories against armies of 10,000. Like, what do you call beating a Borg cube, right? Like, that's what that is. And
B'Elanna, the great hero who has felled thousands of Borg drones, yet fell victim to one Tuvok pimp slap.
One expertly positioned Tuvok pimp slap. Knocked her clean out of the fucking episode.
She probably didn't tell him about that part.
But she is telling a story of their fighting the Hirogen on the Delta Flyer. It's obviously exaggerated, to which Tom like mentions to Neelix, like, don't remember it happening in that way. And then Neelix like, no, this is part of it. Telling tall tales is the whole Klingon thing. Like, it's the whole saga and epics thing. Don't worry, she's doing fine. And she's rolling through it, but there is a doubting Thomas, right, in the group.
Beyond Tom Paris.
Yeah. And it's Tigreth is this guy's name. He's been to doubting Thomas the entire time. And in this scene, he starts to pull, ratchet it up to 11. And he starts doing the thing that I completely understand now as a married man, which is when someone talks shit about your wife in front of you, it's like 0 to fight you, right? Like, that is the impulse. I get it. So he knows that's going to be the impulse. So he starts talking shit and making comments that are inevitably going to get any man to fight you. And throws down a challenge of a fight to the death against Tom Paris because, hey, he's supposed to be a warrior. Are you a warrior, bitch? And B'Elanna wants to intercede. And in the most, like, assertive I think he's ever been, he just says, stay out of this. Like,
listen, B'Elanna, okay.
No.
I don't know if you remember or not, but I am a convict. I've been to the fucking chute. I saved the ship from the Kazon. And spoiler alert, I like to kill people. Okay, I might bring fads like yo-yos and ragtime music to the ship and Captain Proton. I also like to stab people. Okay, that this is who you married. Sit down. I have an old Klingon man to kill.
So he pulls the knife out and is like, "Yep, let's do this. We fighting." And then they cut to the boss's office. And Janeway's just like sitting there, like very disappointed. And he's like, what was I supposed to do? Not fight him to the death? Come on! Like, he was.
I'm sorry, Kathy.
He was talking shit.
What did you think was going to happen when you pulled a space terrorist out of the space pokey to fly your spaceship to hunt down human prey? This is what you signed up for.
Call my wife a whore? Yeah, I'm gonna fucking stab you. Like, that's what's up. And Janeway's like, yeah, no, you don't get to fight to the death. The fuck is wrong with you? And the captain and the doubting Thomas show up, and Kathy's like, yeah, there's going to be no death matches on my starship. Fuck all that. And this is where you get your, Tigreth is like, oh, see, you're just hiding behind regulations. And Janeway actually defends Tom's honor, where he's like, he'll fight you. He's ready to do this. I'm the one that's saying that no one's allowed to do this. This is my call. I am the captain. And that is when Kolar intercedes and is like, well, there is a like provision of you don't have to fight to the death. You can fight to get your shit kicked out of you. So
all
we can do that.
Knocked out with blunted batleths, and then Tigreth's like, no, that's bullshit. And he's like, you calling Emperor so-and-so because this is legit. And the guy's like, fine, well, I'm still gonna fuck you up. And they're like, oh, Tom, you got a hologram program for this? And Kolar's like, I'll teach him how to fight. And off we go to our special guest star for this episode, the caves.
Absolutely. The classic caves of hell. And of course, the least practical weapon of all time, the batleth. We get a batleth duel, which are always entertaining because they're so stupid. Like, would you like to casually swing this very impractical implement at each other over and over and over again?
This whack-ass fight scene we have to sit through here. It has been quite a while since we have had a low-energy physical altercation on this level, but All this was really missing, I think, was someone roughly grabbing Tom by the arm like he was a woman and subduing him.
My only weakness.
I like they got Tom in the Klingon garb. Like they don't even let him wear some Mad Max shit. He has to dress like a Klingon to do the fight. But they get into aforementioned low energy sword fight, and then Tigreth has like a heart attack and falls over, and Tom wins.
This initiates the final stage of the A plot, which is they all have the inbred disease, as we mentioned, and eventually just kills you. Tigreth wants to take over the ship because the initial suggestion is that both B'Elanna and her child now have inbred disease, and therefore clearly not the Messiah if they're just going to die of inbred disease like everyone else. And B'Elanna's real pissed of like, yeah, thanks for coming on the ship and giving me your terrible disease, you motherfuckers. Like,
which, to be fair, is a real fucking dick move. Like, Kolar is self-acknowledging his own doubt that, like, man, maybe she isn't the Messiah. Him coming over and like breathing his mouth aids all over her, real uncool.
Like, no, not even a warning, huh? Really? And he's
No.
like, we never thought of it, I guess.
Yeah.
Oops, I am inbred. I mean, like, I'm gonna make some mistakes. Sorry.
Yeah, so she's like, oh great, so me and my baby are now sick with this and we're gonna die, please leave us the fuck alone. But Tigreth goes back to the circle of elders, little religious council they have there, and say, this is all bullshit, my doubts are well founded, and we can finally dispel the myth that she is the chosen one, because they have space inbreeding. So here's what we need to do. We need to take over Voyager and continue our quest. And I'm already a dead man, so, hey, this sounds like a real honorable way to ratchet thing up the last couple days that I'm going to be alive.
This is when you get a pretty clever takeover attempt, in my opinion, because they try to use the internals. They show you the Klingons figuring out the internal system they're going to use, which is they find a planet suitable for colonization. They're all going to like start doing away teams, checking the thing out. And this mixed away team of Chakotay, who's barely in the episode, like literally in this scene to get, fucked up. 7 of 9's not in this at all. Talk about someone who could have, intimidated some Klingon warriors and made them have lustful desires. Decided not to have her in this episode at all, basically.
You're going to make 7 of 9 a lesbian with curly-haired women instead of it being fucking Raffi and god-awful Picard. She should have been the one shacking up with Sharega.
I completely agree. That'd have been rad. Or she's like very uncomfortable with how aggressive she is. Like, and then just like,
hey, you want to bite? I'll bite. I might not look like it, but I got some fucking Klingon warrior sex urges in my mind too. I bit B'Elanna. I'll bite you too. Fuck it. Bite party.
It definitely would have been a better way to introduce her having a romantic relationship than what they chose to do later. We have that to look forward to. I know. You've been spoiled. It's not good. So you have like the Klingon underling who gets Harry to tell him how the transporter works. And then they like roll in and then just shove Harry into the wall and gun the rest of them down.
This is the hardest that Harry's been slammed into the wall since 7 of 9 slammed him into the wall. Seven might not have been in this episode in person, but she was certainly there in spirit.
And their plan is to transport all of the Voyager crew off the ship, which I thought was actually very clever, right?
Yeah,
like
good enough for the Klingon. I'm sorry, the Kmart Klingons, the Kazon. Good enough for like real Klingons, right?
Yeah, they learned from the fact they got emergency transported. Oh, we can just take everyone off this ship, put them on the planet, and then we have the ship, right? Like, perfect. Doesn't work. Force fields go up. And eventually they decide they got to roll the hard 6 and transport themselves onto the bridge to try and take it over.
How's this work? Hey, they put up shields around the bridge. We can't beam them off the bridge. Okay. Beam us through the shields onto the bridge. What?
whatever. It leads to an actually good phaser fight. Like it is pretty kinetic. There's a lot of dodging and taking cover. There's impact. I liked it. Kathy lays a couple of them out. Tom grabs his like service 9. You see where it's hidden. It's like in a holster on the console.
Can you blame him? I mean,
how many out to turn and shoot?
How many gunfights have we had on the Voyager bridge?
No, makes sense though. Like the service 9 for each position is like there's like Velcroed to it, and you just pull it off when you inevitably have to shoot a Borg drone or something.
At this point, the fact there aren't pop-down Gatling guns is absurd and unforgivable. Like this is well-worn territory for Voyager. And jumping back to Living Witness, I love that they had the Kazon security officers just permanently stationed on the bridge with phaser rifles. Like that might have looked fascist, but that was just common sense.
They subdue the attempt, and they're looking for their honorable deaths. They don't get them. They wake up in sick bay, and they're cured of inbred disease. And we find out that the doctor was onto something when he detected the disease in B'Elanna and her child, but it's that it was being crushed by the stem cells within the Klingon human hybrid that B'Elanna is presently gestating, and that provided a cure for the disease. And thus, here we are. It turns out that unborn child is in fact all of these people's savior, because it's going to eliminate the disease they're all suffering from.
I love it. And it's the Doubting Thomas Tenegra or whatever, who was looking for an honorable death. And Janeway's like, yeah, no mercy killing on my ship. You're going to sick bay. He wakes up on the table. He is the one to be confronted with the fact that the hybrid child is in fact Space Jesus and has in its own way saved the people. And he now becomes a champion of the party, the pro, hey, this is legit party. I love it. It's beautiful. It's very 90s, like, oh, the baby genes save it. There's a very funny part to that scene where the guy goes, the child's genes have, the child has cured us. And the doctor's like, well, it was actually me. And then like Janeway shoots him that look. And he's like, yes, of course, it was the child.
Yeah, like trying to take some credit. And he's like, oh, no, didn't read the room. My bad. Yes, the baby Jesus did it. Good. Thank you, baby Jesus.
I think this would have also been a nice nod for B'Elanna to be like, ooh, good thing I didn't zap all those Klingon genes out of the baby after all.
Like, dodge just a bullet.
Man, this baby just also saved my life. Like, what a mess that would have been in an alternate timeline where I did do those things. Yeesh. Woof.
Speaking of yeesh.
Speaking of woof.
The next scene.
Speaking of doggy style.
Is the greatest scene. This is the best Voyager scene. Tuvok rolls up to his quarters. Door's locked. He's like, computer, unlock this door. It says no. And he's like, okay. Who told you not to keep this? Who told you to lock this door?
Who told you not to keep my door open? I love having my doors open. I'm a security chief.
The computer says, Neelix.
Very accusing, too. Majel Barrett's like, Neelix.
Neelix did this. And you see it in the back of his eyes, like, I'm gonna fucking kill this. I'm gonna strangle this cat. I'm gonna drown him in a gallon of water. This is not okay. And he's like, Neelix, open the fucking door. And you hear like, 1 second. And then you hear like noises and a female noise in the background.
Here comes the title for this episode, which is Getting Lucky in Club Tuvok.
Ooh.
Everybody getting busy in Club Tuvok. Those doors open and you've got Chegra or whatever.
Two scoops of Klingon lady right there, right in front.
With some JBF hair for an international crowd that's just been fucked hair.
Absolutely freshly fucked. 100%.
She walks out of the way and then you see Neelix just disheveled.
Wounded.
Sweaty. Stinky. You can smell Talaxian balls.
He's very hurt and very happy.
heavy scent of ammonia.
And they're arm in arm, they're arm in arm with each other, and they've got pet names like I'm going to miss you, my little warrior. Like, oh, they were into each other. And she leaves, saunters down her not walk of shame, and Neelix is like, oh, I'm really gonna miss her. Like, he's like, I had an experience and I liked it. And then
Sex is pretty great when you're not banging year-old space elves. Not only were they into each other, they were into all of the furniture. As Tuvok walks in, he sees his glass table predictably broken, chairs broken, end table broken, couch broken. There is Talaxian nut on everything.
Absolutely everywhere. And Neelix does that thing that anyone does when after they realize they've had an absolutely torrid sex fest and the place is a mess, but you're still like just like post-coital and you feel like you've got to like fix things somehow, and you just feel useless in this regard. He's like, oh, I'm gonna turn this chair up, I'm gonna give you this cactus back, and then Tuvok just says, Neelix, get out. Just get out. Leave. Leave me in the wreckage of my life.
You've ruined Club Tuvok. I can no longer have black lights on in here. I'm going to see all of the body fluids you've sprayed on the walls.
Never coming out of the carpet. Are you kidding me?
I'm going to have to transfer quarters. This is going to be Maquis Chell's quarters now.
Chell, we have great news. You can upgrade. You get your own suite and everything. Mm-hmm. It's got a cool computer. And it's like, what's the downside? You'll smell it.
Yeah.
Don't worry.
Pick the crew member with the worst smell. Hey, put Dobie in here. The next scene, I thought, well, what I thought was going to be the ending scene, it wasn't. It was the second to last. You get a pretty good connection between Captain Kolar, and B'Elanna. And again, for as many times as B'Elanna has been at odds with her own heritage, and specifically like Klingon protocol, warrior mandate, honor, all that stuff, for her to really have this genuine connection with Kolar, who had at first kind of not conned, but like negotiated her compliance with like, you need to help me sell this religious thing to get us out of here, to by the end, like I think there was genuine buy-in and acknowledgement of tradition's place in her life, that it was a good separation between the two of them. And I think it congealed the Klingon premise of this episode together well, and it gets expounded on even further when you've got the actual ending, which is between Tom and B'Elanna. You already mentioned, like, Tom does not disbelieve that this child is not of prophecy at this point.
I mean, he sees what happened. He's like, yeah, our kid's special. She's Klingon Jesus. This is awesome. He's a proud papa, man. Like, before you're even born. This is great. You're off to the races. I liked the ending of B'Elanna also accepting that, right? Like,
because he's like, let's maybe we should name her what Tuvok mocked,
Klingon Jesus, yeah.
And she's like, you know what? We'll add it to the list. Like, you still have this lingering acknowledgement from her that, like, I'm not going to outright reject my Klingon heritage in this moment. And I thought it was good. Now, I'm going to give you a follow-up, very humorous thing to consider, Joe, that you did not see because you are just a Star Trek fan and not a parent who is a Star Trek fan.
Okay.
Because Kolar gives a parting gift to B'Elanna, and it is his grandfather's very pointy, extra sharp, black, rusty bat'leth.
Yeah. So,
and he says,
seems some mileage.
Mm-hmm. And he says, this is my grandfather's, and I'm give it to your daughter when she grows up. And she takes it, and she's proud, and she says yes. And that's really her taking possession of this Klingon thing, I thought was the cool part. And then that's when we cut over to their quarters where they're prepped in the crib, and she's hanging up the bat'leth on the wall, And Tom's like, well, we can't just leave it there. It'd be a shame not to use it. Let me get it on the holodeck. And she's like, no. And they're like, ha ha ha. And I'm just looking at it, and there's this fucking like D12 vicious, perhaps even vorporal batleth that they've just hung loose on a hook on the wall.
This is a starship that gets shot at a lot.
That's right. Okay,
Yeah,
this bitch gets rocked left and right nonstop. When you're building out a nursery, like the amount of fucking absurd we bought a dresser, okay? I don't know if you've been to IKEA lately, right? Have you?
Yeah, definitely.
Have you seen like the 500 videos they have playing through IKEA about the importance of anchoring dressers to walls? Like they redid their whole line where there's a safety bolt that you attach a bracket to, and then you pull out shelves, and there's a hidey hole in the back you can shove a drill through to bolt the fucking dresser to the wall, because IKEA had like a dozen instances of kids climbing up dressers and the dressers toppling over and killing children, and they got sued to bejesus and back, right? This is a real threat. So when you're building out a nursery, it's like everything needs to be bolted down. Everything needs to be like nuclear hellstorm proof. So her hanging this fucking sword above the baby's bed when the inertial dampeners go off and like shit just gets thrown everywhere. I'm like, you're just asking for this baby to get cut in half, right? These are bad parents. Whatever else you can say about Tom and B'Elanna, the worst fucking parents since maybe the Magus and was her fucking Annika, the Hansons.
Yeah,
Move over, Hansons.
The Hansons did get their child assimilated, so it's probably still worse.
What's worse, assimilated or cut in half by a fucking 80-year-old batleth?
Let's leave that one to our fans to discuss between themselves. And for our fans, we should tease them with what we are reviewing next week.
We're moving into season 7, episode 15, The Void. What the hell are these things? I don't know, man. There's ugly little fucking walnut aliens. Voyager slips into a pocket of subspace where many other ships are trapped and must steal from each other to survive. Isn't that just called the Delta Quadrant?
Also, this is the first episode of Voyager you and I will have to watch somewhere other than fucking Netflix.
Man, fuck. Talk about unforeseen consequences. Goddamn Paramount Plus and Netflix. Like, I know this shit's on I think Amazon, maybe.
Yeah, it's still on Amazon, so that's what I'm gonna end up doing. But quick note here at the end, I guess, but I don't think folks necessarily understand how amazing and influential it was that Star Trek was available as long as it was on Netflix, and how popular it is on Netflix.
Voyager specifically,
yeah,
and that's
Voyager
what woke a lot of people up. I can't say it really factored in you and my decision to do this podcast, just because Next Gen had been podcasted so much it was overplay, and as we've mentioned before, we wanted something we could kind of joke about. But like, there are, where we started off with like maybe one of 3 Voyager podcasts, there are a lot of podcasts for Voyager out there now, and it's because so many people, you know, we've talked about this a lot. Voyager has aged incredibly well, and a lot of the concepts and forward ideas that they established have borne great fruit in 2020, 2021, etc. I'm going to be very sad to be moving off of Netflix because of the skip intro. And when I think about having to fucking watch Enterprise, which I know has a song so bad I'd rather cut my own ass off somehow.
I feel you on that. I will say that you can owe the existence of all of the CBS Trek that exists now to Netflix having Trek available and it being as popular as it was on that platform. Obviously, that may not have worked out the way you and I want. However, I still think it's worth noting that Trek wasn't reinvigorated not because of the movies, but because of its success as reruns on Netflix. Millions upon millions upon millions of people globally rewatched and rewatched and rewatched the show. And eventually, CBS caught wise and thought, maybe we should make some more.
Maybe we should find that ass clown Kurtzman and give him a lot of money so nobody will watch his shit. To the point where it's so bad that Netflix doesn't want to fucking foot their end of the bill on Discovery, and now we're in a real fucking pickle. What my thoughts to leave you with is that I can't say, although I will say it is cool, because the only thing I've really watched on Amazon Prime has been Expanse, because that's, original.
I made the mistake of watching Man in the High Castle, which may have set the award for most steep decline in quality in the shortest amount of time.
I felt that coming on, and that's why I didn't watch the second season. But the first season was pretty cool. Anyways, X-Ray is pretty fucking cool. And for the amount of times where I'm like, God, who is that guy under this fucking goofy makeup? Like, that might be pretty nice to not have to pull out IMDb and like dig through that shit. But my parting thought is that Plex does have a skip intro feature, so I don't know, maybe it will not be Amazon that gets my eyeballs after all.
Well, thank you to everyone for listening to another episode of Feature Please, a Hateful Voyage to the Delta Quadrant. You can always find us on Twitter at Feature Please. You can find us at Gmail at featureplease@gmail.com if you want to send us a message, if you want to send us a mailbag question. We also love to hang out in our Facebook group, the Feature Please Trauma Support Group. It's closed only because we want to respect your privacy and not allow Grandma to see your Star Trek shitposting. So feel free to apply and you will be approved, and we'd love to have you as part of our fan community. And if, as we said at the top, if you're a Discord person, well, good news. We started our own Feature Please Discord. Join up with us on any of our social media platforms. I'll happily shoot you an invite. And we plan on doing periodic Star Trek movie nights here. Nothing super regular, but when we've got the free time, we'll fire one off, and we'd love to have you participate, if silently, also, participate actively, whatever your preference is. And we'll see you next week.